begin. Welcome to Michigan Ag Ideas to Grow With. This session is about farm stress, so that you're sure you're in the right session. And we would like to thank our sponsors. If you could put your phone up to the QR code, you could actually see the sponsors that have represented and made this program possible. So we really do want to and appreciate our sponsors for this program, for Michigan Ag Ideas to Grow With. So once again, welcome to our program. And MSU is an affirmative action equal opportunity employer. Michigan State University extension programs and materials are open to all without regard to race, color, national origin, sex, gender identity, religion, age, height, weight, disability, political beliefs, sexual orientation, marital status, family status, or veteran status. And I am Karen Fifield. I am actually a food safety educator, which I do have some responsibilities in the farm stress program because I do work on a farm, or live on a farm, I should say. Maybe my husband would argue that one. But we have a couple other educators that we'd like to introduce. So Dave.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Thompson with MSU Extension based in Coldwater, Michigan. And I've been a member of the farm stress team now for about 6 years.
And I'm Remington Rice, a health and farm stress educator in Benzie County, Michigan. I am a 5th generation cattle farmer. My dad, he still raises cattle. My mom, it works as a therapist. So sometimes I feel like I was cloned in a laboratory for this job. But yeah, I'm your health and farm stress educator. I lead the farm stress project, the statewide project. We just a quick little 30,000 view of that 30,000-foot view of the project. We have a wonderful teletherapy program that's been really helpful for a lot of farmers across the state. We have grant funds to pay for sessions, and so we didn't want cost to be a barrier to seeking help. And so if you're a farmer, farm family member, there's no cost to you to engage in these resources. We do educational presentations around the state, just like the one that you're all in today. And as you can see, this is being recorded. And so you'll be able to look back at any of the information today and reference that again. As you know, Karen and Dave mentioned, I work with other extension educators. You know, I am not an expert on farm financial analyses, so I tap on, you know, folks like Dave and Karen to help with topics like that so that we can help come in and support farms with what they need. We also have a wonderful, you know, mental health first aid course through extension. So it's kind of like CPR, but it's like, what do you do if someone's having a mental health crisis? How can you support them best? We also have grant funds to pay for enrollment in that if you are in the agricultural community. And I also just want to say before we get rolling, I'm really excited to talk about this topic. If there's any questions or comments, you know, as we're moving along, please put those in the chat and we can address those as they come up. Or if you'd like, you can save them to the end too. But I know sometimes it's best topic comes up while it's, you know, fresh on everyone's mind, we can address it then. And so I'll be presenting after we get done with introductions here. We'll speak with a Michigan farmer, and then we'll get into a maybe 30-minute presentation on what stress looks like, what can we do about that, and then we'll wrap up with a discussion on warning signs of suicide. I bring this up just to make everyone aware that that will be a topic of discussion and that it can be a difficult topic to talk about. So I just wanted to forewarn everyone about that. With that in mind, Karen, would you please introduce our honored guest?
I will. And I always neglect to say I am from Montmorency County, and so is our farmer that we want to hear from today. And his name is Matt Nofsey. He has a great story to tell, and I'm now going to hand it over to you, Matt and Remington, to have a discussion.
Yeah, Matt, I'm
Well,
hoping you could introduce us a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself to start us off.
well, my name is Matt Nopsey. I actually, the farm is in Alpena County. Across the road is Montmorency County, so I'm familiar with Karen and her program as well, and we're involved with the Montmorency County Fair. I went to Ag Tech Dairy back in the late '80s. Came home to my family dairy farm, and we expanded over the years. 2015, we built a new milking parlor. We were milking about 240 head, kind of cruising along with the struggles of milk pricing. But about 3 years ago, my son came to me. Actually, he worked off the farm right out of high school, but came back to the farm full time when my dad got sick. So we were kind of partners full time in 2018. We started an LLC to try to start transferring some assets to that next generation. And he came to me one day about 3 years ago and said, "Dad, I want to go back off the farm and get a job." And it crushed me. For 2 weeks, it crushed me really bad. And, I give him a lot of credit because it took a lot of courage for him to come to me with that. We, over the course of the next year or so, we lost a full-time employee. So we were having trouble finding good help. It wasn't a financial decision by any means to get out of the dairy business. It was probably, we struggled for, well, let me just start out by, we ended up with an online dairy sale to sell the milk cows on June 30th, 2021. The loadout day was the next day, July 1st, probably the most difficult day of my life, emotion-wise. So I just thought with that next generation not being interested in the dairy, it was time to go a different route. And you can imagine the highs and lows of the emotional roller coaster, and your days were filled with moments of failure, moments of celebration. We had our highs and lows, and you guys are all aware of that, with the way the dairy economy was and the labor issues. So we went a different route. We sold the dairy cows. We kept all the replacement heifers. We prepared, so to speak, the summer before, and we planted 120 acres of soybeans to kind of prepare for some future income. The dairy heifers, as they freshened, I was able to keep the calf, and I found a dairy farm just south of Osneek that buys the fresh heifers, and I take them down there, and it currently is still working that way. I have probably 6 months of my heifers when we were dairy farming left. So when the cows left, I kept all the bull calves and the heifer calves. And so I got about 70 steers and 130 heifers still. And that is the plan, to kind of try to keep rolling along that way with some crop farming, livestock farming, selling fresh heifers. We just started butchering 2 steers a month. We got some steers that are now butcher size. So we have our own corn, and I buy a pellet to feed those steers with. And so we're doing good. I mean, we kept the family together, and that was our main goal, my wife and I give her all the credit in the world. She was with me that day of the loadout. Every minute of that whole day, she was with me. And so, and also my son and my sister came to stay with my mom because it was a tough day on her as well. But anyway, we're just kind of cruising along, and less than a week ago, I just had my 3rd grandchild. My son just had a second little girl, so things are good. And we're just looking forward to, I'm just looking forward to farming with my son and trying to gain a few acres here and there, and just the thing that is always on the back of my mind is there's still farm debt that I wasn't able to pay off with the sale of the cows. we did pay off some short-term debt, equipment and such, but there's still long-term debt out there. We were able to go to annual payments instead of monthly. So I guess, that's my story. I would love to, put myself out there, my phone number, because you guys, maybe farms are reluctant to expose themselves, but maybe as a farmer, they would want to talk to somebody that's been through that. And I would love to put myself out there and my phone number and however you guys want to use that resource or my resource. Because, I was reluctant to find help and I did have my yelling and screaming fits and crying days. And, there was a lot of that, but, it's not the end of the world. We just got to remember that. And, there's always different avenues to take as far as lifestyles. And, we didn't discontinue farming altogether. We just went a different route. So that's what it is.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for sharing all of that. I'm, my deepest condolences for that day. Sounds like an incredibly stressful day, and I'm glad you're still here to talk with us. I'm happy that you were able to seek help. I do want to dig in a little bit more on how, during that day and other stressful days, you mentioned that you're really glad that your wife was there and your family was able to support you. I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit more about different things that you found to be helpful during those really stressful moments.
Gosh, at the end of the day, you do a lot of praying, you have a lot of faith. The good Lord has blessed us, and you just kind of lean on your faith. And still do to this day. But it's I did want to reach out, but like I said, farmers are pretty proud, and we're proud people, and like I said, I was reluctant to ask for help or seek help, but not that it wasn't needed, but I just, like I said, I wanted to see if I could be of some help to somebody that may be reluctant to contact you guys for your resources.
Yeah, I think sharing your story and raising awareness about this topic is helpful, because you are right. Farmers are I'm just going to say stubborn. Or at least farmers I know. My grandpa, I never heard him say that he was stressed or that he was sad. That vocabulary he didn't really have. And so I'm glad that you are willing to be a community champion here. I also want to ask more. I appreciate you sharing that your faith has been helpful for you to get you through these difficult times, and I know there's a lot of farmers that feel the exact same way. That faith is something that can be a source of strength. I want to also ask just one more question. Like, in these moments of stress, and you mentioned a little bit of this, but I just want you to expand on, if you can, what was happening that made you realize that, and even to this day, like, what happens that makes you realize that you're feeling stressed? Like, how do you know that you are stressed? For example, when my eye will start to twitch when I'm feeling stressed, I will have this twitch start to happen. Maybe clenching my jaw too. I'll have that. I'm just wondering, what are your tells? How do you recognize?
Well, I guess I would say, I always thrived on being busy, and with the dairy, I was busy all the time, beyond busy. When it started to become overwhelming, that you started to one little say a calf was born dead, you didn't do anything wrong, but somehow you felt responsible and guilt for that, and those things just happen on a farm, and I realized that, and I have always realized that. But when you started feeling that you're responsible for that calf that didn't make it, or And then you have this beautiful calf that was born, a beautiful big heifer calf, strong and vibrant, and and then those are the highs, and the lows are when a cow gets stuck in a freeze stall and you find her dead the next morning, and those are the lowest of the lows, and somehow you feel that. I think that was a sign of when I was feeling stressed, is just when when you felt low enough that you could cry, and you did. So I guess that was, it was, there's just been a lot of that, just, and you could just fly off the handle at something really little and ridiculous. You could lose your temper at, a broken fence, or a gate came open, and you got to stop and take a minute and say, that's not a big deal. You shouldn't be acting that way.
Yeah, I definitely, that resonates with me too. When we're stressed, the littlest thing that typically wouldn't be a source of anger can push us over. I call this almost like redlining. Like, we're under so much stressful load that these little things can push us over. But yeah, thank you, Matt, so much for sharing. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Well, just that, there are always options, and we talked about selling the whole farm, and do we sell the whole farm as it is, and put it up for sale, and I grew up there, and my son grew up. Well, we lived down the road, so he didn't actually grow up there, but he was there. So he says, Dad, we grew up here, we can't sell it. So we didn't. We just went a different route, and and so I just like I said, I give him a lot of credit too, and we're still farming together. We have a great relationship with daughter-in-law and him, and my mom still lives at the farm, and she's gosh, I don't know, Karen, 76 years old, and I gotta say, maybe she's part of the reason why I still have baby calves, because she just comes out and feeds calves morning and night, unless she's got something going on. She knows it'll get done without her, but she just still comes out morning and night. So I just, it's the family thing that keeps you going,
So it's your heart. Is that what you're saying, Matt?
Well, your heart's always in it,
Exactly.
I call it farming. And Karen, you probably got, your boys are probably part of that too. You got a disease, and it's born into you, so you just got to find some sort of, thing to do in the line of agriculture.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matt.
Yeah.
For your story. But
Yeah, Matt, this is Dave Thompson. I have a quick question. The story you highlighted, I think, is one that we hear fairly common the past several years of a farm needing to transition its business model due to some unexpected change in their succession plans. You thought your son was going to be taking over the dairy farm, and didn't turn out that way. But where did you look for your ideas on how to do the financial piece of this? Because this is a significant change in your farm's business model. What gave you confidence that you could make it transitioning from a dairy farm to more of a mixed operation?
Well, I didn't have any confidence in myself or anything. I didn't have any, and actually, it frustrated me when you see it frustrated me over the years that when you see the Great Lakes Dairy Conference being held, and all you hear about is, how to make your milk check go further, or how to see light at the end of the tunnel, or how to become more efficient. When I felt like there should have been some seminars on, how to transition that dairy farm into another avenue, and we were about as efficient as we could ever get, and as every farm probably is, and why, how are you going to preach us how to make our milk check go further when it's as far it's as thin as it can go? But so I looked at Greenstone, and they were great to work with. They actually deferred I had to pay interest only on the first year, and then we went to annual payments. And like I said, I paid off some short-term and intermediate liabilities with them, and we kept a long-term loan because it was such a low interest, and they were able to go to annual payments without having to refinance, because if I would have doubled the interest rate if I would have had to refinance. So they were good to work with. But as far as, I got to say, I tried to reach out to Extension one time, and I kind of got blown off into, well, I'll give you your name to such and such, and it didn't happen. And I tried to reach out to try to deal with how to deal with the remaining debt, and I didn't. So you just gotta wing it and work with your lenders, and that's what I did.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks again, Matt. Anything else you wanted to mention or share? Just don't want to make sure you say everything you want to say.
Well, I guess I would just, if I could give some advice to anybody that may be listening, is, if you feel the need to, disperse the dairy herd, maybe plan a little bit further ahead than what I did. Say if you want to disperse in 3 years, maybe put up some, dry grain bin storage, or, if you need some sort of an expense, a farm expense, and that part we weren't prepared for. We didn't have any dry grain storage. We did, like I say, we did plant soybeans, but the other argument is, when you got bills to pay, you can't store grain anyways. You got to sell it. So that's about it.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining us. Please feel free to stay for the remainder of the hour.
I absolutely will.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're going to transition now into our presentation, Mending the Stress Fence. I'm sure some of you in the audience have seen this before. Yeah, so anything else, Dave and Karen, before we jump into this? Or any questions?
Just one quick question, Remy. Is it possible for people online to ask Matt questions if they wanted to before we move into this, or is it not set up to allow that?
They can put questions in the chat, and then we can address those as they come up.
Does everyone know how to do that? To just go down to the bottom of the screen and hit the chat button, and then you can it takes you right to a button where you can type in a question if you have any question that you'd like to ask Matt that wasn't already covered through his presentation.
It is a meeting though, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
They could unmute themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, Juliet is sharing. Matt, I know you're on the phone, so I'll read this to you. Matt, you are an inspiration. Thank you, sir, for sharing your story. I cried hearing it, and it is so reassuring to hear it too. And so thank you, Juliet, for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you. That was, like I said, if it's more reassuring to talk to me directly, I'd be more than willing to do that for anybody.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt.
Matt, do you want me to put your number in the chat so if anybody wants it, they can, or?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Would you rather we send it out afterwards? Is that something we can do, Rem?
Either, whatever works, Karen. Yeah.
Yeah. Individuals who want to speak to Matt, they can reach out to us directly, and we can connect you with his information. Okay. Thank you, Juliet, for commenting. Okay. So today we're going to come together and we're going to talk about stress and develop some strategies to deal with stress. And a lot of these strategies that I'm going to talk about, and many of us engage with those already. And so I really, none of this, a lot of this won't be totally foreign. I'll say that. I'm really just trying to trigger some of these, memories that you have, maybe something that served you in the past and you've kind of let go of that. I just want to reinvigorate those ideas for you. So as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about signs and symptoms of stress, which Matt gave us a great brief on that. Learn more about wellness and different opportunities that we have to address this stress. We'll talk about a little bit about some communication tools that we can use if we're working with a fellow farmer or a family member that is struggling, how we approach them. There's different ways that conversation can go. And so I just want to give you all tools on a way maybe to have that conversation go better. And then finally, we'll wrap up, as I forewarned, some awareness on warning signs of suicide, and then what to do if you're in a situation where someone is expressing suicidal thoughts to you, which can be an incredibly difficult situation to be in. So I want you all to be prepared in case that happens to you. So as we all know here, likely know in this meeting, and whoever's watching this, agriculture is a stressful occupation. Ag ranks among the most hazardous industries. So there's a physical component of agriculture, long hours, it can be hard on your body, really physical, and that can impact your mental health. Likewise, there's other, parts of farming that directly impact your mental health. If you spend 10 hours a day in a tractor by yourself, and you may not have great opportunities to socialize with, family members or friends, so it can be an isolating experience. Also, living in a rural setting, there, can be less opportunities to socialize, and then also medical infrastructure in rural settings can, not be ideal, I'll say. And so, ag is it's a unique profession. There's of course reasons why we love farming, the autonomy that we have, the stewarding of the land, working closely with family. That last one can also be a source of stress at times, but there are great reasons why we love doing this kind of work. But there's the other side of that coin too. And something that Matt alluded to at the start is this unique tie that farm families have to their land. And anything that would threaten that bond can be incredibly stressful. My family farm has been in the family over 100 years. And so anything that would threaten that legacy, the traditions, all the history that has happened with our family, with that land, is incredibly stressful. I like to think about, a dentist. If a dentist office, their office burns down, that's going to be stressful. They'll collect insurance and maybe be able to reopen and buy a new office. But it's a little different when that office has been in your family for over 100 years, and there's no other office quite like that one. So there's something unique, not just this, but farming and the stress that farmers face. There's some unique components there. So I just want to mention that. Some of the other stressors that farmers face include all of these and some other ones too, not listed here. So weather, that can be an acute or chronic stress. So, just a single event happens, or maybe it's a drought experience, or a drought phenomenon over years, or maybe too much rain, as we've seen in some areas of the state, too much precipitation that can happen over a long period of time. Large debt loads, finances, that seems to be the number one stressor that we hear about from farmers when we ask. Changing in government regulations, equipment maintenance, a single tractor turnover can cost upwards on average $1 million. That's lost productivity, even physical harm. Staffing and customer interactions, that's going to, apply more to folks with an agritourism operation. So people who are, maybe a corn maze or something, inviting the public onto their property. And we've had a rise in stress related to this in recent years. And then there's this really unique one, work-life balance. So that dentist I mentioned, they likely leave the office at the end of the day and drive across town and go home. And they don't see the dental patients lining up at the door. My dad, however, he looks out the window and sees his patients. He sees the cows. And so his work-life balance isn't as clearly defined as this hypothetical dentist. And so farmers really, this is another unique thing, but another unique opportunity to address this. And the evidence here is really clear. We'll talk more about addressing stress, but the better or the more clear separation that you have between your work and your personal life, the better. And so I'll try to give you a couple tools on how to do that, even if you do live on the farm. So these are some stressors that farmers face. I don't want to dwell on this too long. And then there's the stress response. There's the thing that's happening to us, and then there's us and how we are responding to that stress. And stress can be defined as a need or demand that people confront that is perceived as burdensome or threatening and can lead to physical or mental health problems. It is important to note here that not all stress is bad. There's stress that gets us excited about, an anniversary or a birth of a grandchild, as Matt mentioned, helps me stay motivated and be excited to come talk to all of you today and, work with farmers, get us out, planting in the fall or in the spring and harvesting in the fall. There is a good form of stress, and we hear a lot about cortisol in the news, and cortisol gets a really bad rep. It's something that is present in all of us and is important for us to function. The problem comes when there is a chronically high elevated amount of stress. And so particularly if it's over a long period of time, and then we could call this distress. So, prolonged distress is, at the end of the day, you are still, in that go mode, you're like very alert and active at a time when you should be, kind of winding down. In the morning, very natural for us to feel alert, feel awake, time to go to work, time to get out into the fields. But that should, start to taper off at the end of the day. Whereas if, you're chronically in that go state, from dusk till dawn or dawn to dusk, that's where some health problems can arise, especially if this is happening over a long period of time. So that's stress in a nutshell. I want us now to think about, what are our signs? And so, we have heard a little bit from Matt about his signs. I shared a little bit about my own, experience when I was, wrapping up school. I felt, I have to get a job. I have to move back home. What are the girlfriend and I going to do? And my eye would start to twitch. And that was a sign to me. And, another sign of mine would be, if my, fiance now, she walks in the morning and sees me eating a large deep dish pizza for breakfast, that may be a sign that I am feeling stressed out. And so I'm hoping to hear from all of you now. Maybe you could put it in the chat. Dave and Karen, maybe you could share a little bit about your own signs of stress. I just, 2-3 people, I just want to hear what are other signs that all of you experience?
Sure, Remy. Personally, when I feel stressed, I think what I start doing is trying to play out scenarios in my mind, and the things that I'm concerned about just keep circling around in my mind, especially at night when I'm trying to sleep. And there's really nothing I can, accomplish during the night by allowing this to occur, but it seems to be impossible to stop. But that loss of sleep, I think, is probably the number one thing for me.
And mine, I have my eye that twitches as well. However, I will cook up a million things at home. I mean, it's, yeah, I cook a lot or do other things while I'm still thinking about all the stress that's going on. And that's just how I try to relieve it, actually, which is probably not the best method, but it's, it's what I do.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing that. I see in the chat, we have a couple things, drinking, so, substance use, and then stress eater. Yeah, both of those definitely resonate with me too. And, we're all on the path somewhere, cleaning and re-cleaning things obsessively. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so, I think the key, or at least the start here is becoming aware of these things that are happening to us, becoming aware of, the eye twitching. If, I didn't know, or if I didn't recognize that my eye was twitching, then how am I going to know that I should do something about it? And so, thinking about these different signs that we have can be the start of how we can address them. And you really are the expert, as it says here, when it comes to your own stress. You'll know. But another way of thinking about this is, how would someone who knows you well say that you respond to stress? My fiance, she'll, if I'm eating a large pepperoni pizza for breakfast, she will know that I am feeling stressed. So we've identified quite a few of these in the chat, and then Dave shared, not being able to sleep. I think, for me, in this last column, the action or behavior column, I think, one of the take-home points is that there's a change that occurs. It could be really sudden, or it could happen over time. But there's a change from whatever our normal is, Doesn't necessarily mean that I can't sleep at all. It could mean that I'm sleeping too much. I'm sleeping in throughout the day. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm eating 5 pizzas today. It could be that I'm not eating at all. And so it's really that change that is occurring. And so becoming, aware of where we're at is really an important first step in managing our stress. So I want you to think about, what are your signs? And then, we've talked a little bit about, how we are responding to this stress. And so, the signs and the response, those kind of go hand in hand here. And next, I want to make a couple suggestions and offer some effective coping strategies that we can engage with, to help manage this stress. I want to take a step back here, and I just want to say that, and this is my soapbox moment, one of them, that I believe a lot of people think life is like a stage, and that they're up on the stage, or life is like a play, and they're up on the stage acting out life. But I really think life is more like we're in the audience watching the play unfold. And what I mean by that is a lot of things are going to happen to us, and we didn't really have a say in what's happening on that stage, from weather, equipment breakdowns, or, other stressful events. We didn't really get to choose that was going to happen. We didn't have a say in that. The only thing we really have is, we can work to improve how we respond to the things that are happening up on the stage. We can throw things at the stage. We can, engage in all sorts of maladaptive behaviors, or we can work to, choose behaviors that, or actions, things that we can do that will help us address that stress. And so I'll share some of those strategies now with all of you. And, so here's the different dimensions. And I think it's important to mention that I don't want to prescribe any of these to you that are listening to this. And there really isn't no one size fits all. So some of these different things you're gonna be like, that doesn't really work for me, and that's okay. You have other paths that you can go down. But if we are looking to navigate through our stress and improve our health and well-being, it's important to address each of these as needed. Sometimes it's going to be better to use one than the other, and so this is just kind of a reminder. A lot of these you already engage with or have in the past, so this is just a kind of friendly reminder about your different options. So the first one here, physical, whenever I mention this in a room of farmers, I always get back, Remy, I work in the field all day. The last thing I want to do is go out for a run at night. And the good news is that there's 7 more options. There's 7 other domains of wellness. However, exercise is one of the most immediate ways to reduce stress. And this is something that I use. If I recognize that my eye is twitching, I'll go for a walk. I'll get out of the house. I'll, go get 20, 30 minutes. I'll just go for a walk. And it's really, when it comes to this, what exercise works for you? Is that doing laps in the pool, stationary bike, walking, playing with the grandchildren on the floor, whatever way, kind of works for you. Another thing I'll say before we get too far into these is that it's important to do it outside of work. Spending non-work time engaging with these behaviors is a really important component of this. Intellectual domain, any activities that engage your mind, reading, journaling, puzzles, and this doesn't mean solving a puzzle on the farm of, fixing the tractor and solving that. I mean, that may help, but I encourage all of you to find opportunities that exist outside of work. Financial, this is one that can be stressful in the short term, but in the long run, getting a grasp on, your financial landscape on your farm can be helpful. It's amazing to me how many farmers I meet with that don't know their annual cost of production. I think that's a really important number to know, just starting out, but it may be stressful figuring that out. In the long run, however, you're going to be better off for that. And great staff like Karen and Dave can certainly help you with that area. Environmental, spending non-work time. A lot of farmers, we work outside, we're in the environment, but the key word here is the non-work part. Another term that I learned recently that I really like is taking a forest bath. And this is something that's really, innate in all of us. Being out in nature, there's something really ancient that's part of us that, can help reduce stress. Spiritual, so we heard from Matt, engaging in church, that can be something that can be helpful. Meditation, prayer, and this can be something that can be different for many different people. On this topic of meditation, I want to just spend 2 minutes now on this. And so if you haven't meditated before, there's a lot of great resources out there on what it is. We've all heard about this, but Dave mentioned that he has these thoughts that come up, and our minds, our brains, it loves to project us into the past and then into the future. And so, my mind, it's thinking about all that presentation I did last year. It went so poorly, and I better ruminate and think about that a lot in order to protect myself now. Or our brain projects us into the future. Tomorrow we have this big thing I got to do, and there's a lot of work, and so I'm going to ruminate and think about that. And so something we can do, meditation, and consistency here is important. Building this into our daily routine, maybe right after you brush your teeth, you sit down, meditate for a minute. You can start off small, and continually do this, but just for a minute, I want us all to practice this. And so what I want you to do is close your eyes and focus all of your attention on your breath. Thoughts will come. I want you to acknowledge those thoughts and return back to your breath. In through your nose and out through your nose. It may be fast, it may be slow. We don't want to change our breath. We just want to watch it. We want to focus all of our attention on watching our breath. Again, thoughts are going to come. I want you to accept those and return back all of your attention on the tip of your nose, watching that breath come in and out. There we go. That is a form of meditation. And this is something that I practice. You can build this into your habit wherever it works for you. And I encourage all of you to do this. Your breath is always there for you to focus on in those moments where these thoughts are coming. And the more you practice and the more time you put in, the better you'll be in a situation when those stressors are really coming down on you. And so I mentioned earlier redlining, where little stressors that typically wouldn't put you over the edge do. This is a way to bring those RPMs down, and you're better able to meet those demands. One last thing on meditation I want to say. We only have 10 minutes left here, so I'm going to go through the next part quick. You can elongate your exhale. And so just exhale for a little bit longer than your inhale, and you will bring your heart rate down. So when you're in the doctor's office and you're feeling really anxious, or they're going to come take your heart rate, if you spend a little bit of time, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, exhaling for longer than your inhale, you will decrease your heart rate. And this is a physiological thing that we have. Our vagus nerve helps control our heart rate and breathing. And when you inhale, your heart rate increases slightly. And then when you exhale, it decreases slightly. And so if you exaggerate that exhale, you will eventually, bring your heart rate down. I can talk about meditation for a long time, but we're going to move on. Social, as I said, this can be something that can be challenging for farmers, but it's really important. We are all social creatures, in one way or another, we need one another. Maybe it's a smaller group for some than others, but how much time you can be social is different, but in some capacity, all of us need this. And it's been challenging over the past, couple of years. So I encourage all of you to seek out opportunities here to re-engage with your communities. Occupational, this is that work-life balance. One thing I'll share here is that I shared this with another farmer in a past talk, and he came back to me and said, something that works for me is that when I get down, or when I come home at the end of the day, I sit down and I take my work boots off at the door. And taking my boots off is a switch in my mind that now it's time for me to recharge, practice self-care, engage in the things that are good for me. when the work boots come back on, now it's work time. And so he still lived on the farm. He wasn't able to create a physical distance, but it was a mental switch in his mind that there's work and then there's personal time. Emotional, this is that other thing, this ties into that concept that these stressors are outside of us, happening to us, and then we can work to improve how we respond to those stressors. Only a little bit of time left. I want to encourage everyone to complete the evaluation survey, or at least pull it up on your phone or computer, and I'll share this survey link and QR code again at the end. I just wanted to mention this. Communication tools. I know I'm going to go through this really quick here. Here's the punchline. You can see the difference between the answers that you would get if I ask someone, do you need some help? They may reply, no, I'm fine. Conversely, if I ask them, how do you hope I might be able to help you? That's going to elicit a different response. And so I encourage all of you, in your personal relationships with people you're worried about, your family, this is something that you can use across the board. Any time that you want a deeper, richer conversation, I encourage you to practice using open-ended questions. Closed-ended questions, you're going to get this binary response, yes or no, and then open-ended, richer, deeper conversation. This recording, of course, will be online, so you can reference back and pause the video if you wanted to read this more in depth. One last topic here, and this is the hardest topic to get through or to talk about, because all of us in one way or another, our lives have been impacted by suicide. And so what are some of the warning signs of suicide? I'll give you a moment just to read through these. If I have a farmer that comes to me and says, Remy, I want you to have my most prized hunting rifle. That could be a sign that they're having some suicidal thoughts. Loss of interest, if I have a, farmer coffee club, everyone gets together Monday morning at the gas station to shoot the breeze, and, John suddenly, Farmer John, he stops showing up. That could be another warning sign of suicide. So these are all different things for us to keep an eye out for with one another. And I know I can count on all of you to be agents of change in your own communities. So if you see some of these warning signs, I want to encourage all of you to ask directly. I understand that this can be challenging, even like as soon as I say the word suicide, I can feel the temperature of the room drop. And this can be an incredibly difficult situation to be in. There is also this myth in society that asking people about suicide is going to make it more likely to happen. And I want to tell you now that the evidence overwhelmingly does not support that. Au contraire, this will allow people to open up and feel seen and be an opportunity for them to seek help and to find help. So the evidence is really clear. Please ask. You may want to practice just saying this to yourself in the mirror, maybe, because this can be hard. Even just saying the word suicide can be difficult. There's a question in the chat. What are the most alarming signs versus more mild? So great question. Thank you for that. How many of the signs should put up a red flag? I think just a single sign can be enough for you to, inquire upon. And, if they're not having these suicidal thoughts, they'll tell you, be like, no, I just didn't feel like I needed that hunting rifle anymore. I want you to have it. You're not going to give them the idea of, that doesn't happen. And so, if you see any of these, and then each of these could be more severe than others. And so, there's a wonderful program out there called Assessing and Managing Suicide Risk, and that you can enroll in that, and it would really help you identify, like how severe is this? And then there's certain, questions that you can ask too, after this initial question. So I guess my answer, classic psychological answer, is it depends. It's going to depend on, how, advanced is this plan? If you hear about them making a plan, how advanced is that plan? Great question. Please look up the Assessing and Managing Suicide Risk online, and then there's other resources too for that, and then you can reach out to me directly as well. Is there a link? I can share some stuff at the end of this. We'll have some slides, and then I can put that in the chat. So just moving on, just for the sake of time here. What if someone says—
Remy, can I ask a quick question? Could you post your slides so that people can get into them? And I know you've got a number of references in there at the end.
Mhm.
That way.
I'll show them in the video recording too, and so people can go and pause and then look at those different resources. But yeah, seeing as how we're on video, I will just show that this is the booklet. And so I have it right here on my desk, Assessing and Managing Suicide Risk, participant guide. And so I don't think it was a free training, but it was incredibly helpful, so it's more of like a clinical tool, but it's available. Those tools are out there. Yeah, thank you for the question, Tamla. So what if someone says yes? Incredibly difficult situation that you can find yourself in. Do not leave them alone. Do not, even if they say like, oh, I'm fine, I'll see you tomorrow. Don't leave them. And then call for help. Of course, ideally ask for their consent, and then call someone in, call a professional. And the great news is that 988 is a new crisis line that's available across the nation. And so just like 911 is available for, emergencies, and, that's still available, but 988 is now available for a mental health crisis. It, is just a new number that connects to the suicide prevention lifeline. And so, this is something that you don't have to force them to call. If I'm with this hypothetical farmer, John, and they're expressing some suicidal thoughts, I don't have to say, here, John, call. I can be the one that calls and says, hey, I'm with Farmer John. They're having some suicidal thoughts. We need help. And they can, the crisis counselors on the other end of the line will connect you with local resources for help in those situations. If whoever you're with has a therapist or counselor already, call them if you have access to that. But if it truly is a crisis situation, 988 is always there 24/7. You will be able to be connected with some help. Another thing I want to throw out there, and we talked about this a little bit before, but we have a great teletherapy program. And, when I bring up therapy in a room full of farmers, there can be some misconceptions about this. And I just want to clear the air about what therapy is. Everyone that's listening to this, we all have a story that we tell ourselves about our life. We all have this narrative about our life, and it's imperfect. We are not, the most accurate historian of every event that's happened. Emotions get in there, substances and all sorts of stuff can skew our memories and our experiences. And so in therapy, it's an unbiased mirror, basically. Someone is going to be able to hear this story that you tell yourself and be able to, look at that in an unbiased way. We have biases with our own story. And so this teletherapy program has been really helpful for a lot of farmers. we hand selected therapists that have an ag background. And so they either grew up on a farm, married into a farm, so they can really understand what it's like living in a rural setting. So you can reach out to us with that. I'll share the link to this too, but it's just a testimonial of a farm family in Sheboygan that engaged with the teletherapy, and they kind of shared their experience with that. And then here's a slide of our different resources. So any of these, we aren't here to sell you anything. All of these resources are free and available to farmers in Michigan, farm family members, or other ag professionals too. And so, please reach out to us. I'm easy to find, Dave, Karen, any of us, and we can get you connected with some help. I also want to, I'm going to leave this up, but we'll field any questions or comments now. But I'll leave this up so that you can complete the survey and let us know. We always are trying to improve how we reach this audience. So yeah, we'll take any questions that anyone has. Feel free to put them in the chat or unmute. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, you can reach out afterwards too by email. So I put my email in the chat too, so people can reach out if they have any questions. Dave, Karen, anything you want to add, elaborate on?
Thanks, Remy. I was just going to say I'll put my email address down too, and maybe Karen would. And so if anybody wants to reach us. And I just want to thank everyone for participating today too. And especially I want to thank Matt for sharing his story. I think it's really important. And we appreciate you all being online today.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to reiterate what Dave said. Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing your story and being so open, and for everyone that's listened, and Remy for the information that you've provided for all of us. And once again, reach out to any of us. I also put the link in the chat for the survey. So if you could please fill that out, that would be great. We'd appreciate it. And yeah, thank you all for attending today.
Karen, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'll talk to you soon, Matt.
You bet.